We reported exclusively that Bank of America secretly went through its customers' private financial data after the Capitol Hill riot and sent a list of names to the feds.
Bank of America is, without the knowledge or the consent of its customers, sharing private information with federal law enforcement agencies. Bank of America effectively is acting as an intelligence agency, but they're not telling you about it. In the days after the January 6th riot at the Capitol, Bank of America went through its own customers' financial and transaction records, a lot of them. Now, these were the private records of Americans who had committed no crime, people who, as far as we know, had absolutely nothing to do with what happened at the Capitol on January 6th.
We know that Bank of America scanned through its customers' financial records. Specifically, Bank of America squealed to the feds on customers who met at least the following 4 criteria. Number 1, customers confirmed as transacting either through bank account, debit card or credit card purchases in Washington, D.C. between January 5th and January 6th. Number 2, customers making purchases for hotels or Airbnbs in D.C., Virginia and Maryland after January 6th. Number 3, customers shopping at a weapons-related merchant between January 7th and their upcoming suspected stay in the D.C. area around Inauguration Day. And number 4, customers making any airline-related purchases from January the 6th. We know the Bank of America used these criteria to identify 211 customers of alleged interest to federal law enforcement. One of those customers was interviewed by the feds and cleared of any wrongdoing. Bank of America told us they don't comment on law enforcement inquiries and insisted they always comply with the law. Francie Hakes is a former prosecutor. We're always glad to see her, and she joins us to assess the legality of what Bank of America has been doing to its customers. Francie, what's your take on this?
Well, you know, Mark, it's really odd and interesting that the statement the bank issued today didn't say anything about search warrants, subpoenas, or court orders, which I would expect in the hubbub when this came to light, they would immediately fall back on having been given legal process in order to comply with these requests. The Constitution of this country, the Fourth Amendment, does not allow these kind of searches when it's not particularized. That is a particular term that we use in the law, particularized searches. That is, a federal agent has to go to a federal judge or appear before the grand jury and get an order or a warrant or a subpoena and hand it to someone like the bank and say, person A, Francie Hakes, is suspected of committing a riot or insurrection or incitement on this day at this time in Washington, D.C. And we expect that the evidence you hold in your bank would show that she was there, which will help us prove that she committed a crime. That is required by the Constitution. It does not look like that was done here at all. The Supreme Court has held many times that federal agents cannot rummage through data in order to try to find evidence of a crime. Financial information is highly private in this country and is given heightened protections.
Isn't there a slight contradiction there then between your constitutional rights and the post 9/11 security state, where, for instance, fairly routine transactions, the bank, for example, it began with the $10,000. If you put in a check for $11,500, they had to notify the feds. And then people started putting in, it became a requirement that if they were just below 10,000, that in itself was suspicious, so you had to report 9,750 deposits to the... Hasn't banking, as Tucker put it, in effect become nationalized and an arm of the state under the post 9/11 regime?
Well, Mark, activity reports for financial information that suggest you are using the bank in an illegal way, that somehow your transaction itself is illegal. That isn't used to prove that you were in a particular place committing a completely unrelated crime. I mean, it's as if a murder is committed in downtown Atlanta tonight, down the street from where I live, and they suddenly ask all the banks in the area to tell them all the customers who were transacting. That's not the way the Constitution works. That's not the way liberty-loving country works. That's not the way federal law enforcement is allowed to utilize private companies. And I'll be very interested to see what else the bank has to say about whether or not they were given legal process. If anyone is prosecuted using this information, I suspect they will have a very easy time kicking that data out of court for violating the Fourth Amendment.